Well, folks, we're visiting today with Dan Milleson. Dan is the owner-operator of a really awesome place called Waterfront Hall in Wheeling, West Virginia, in Ohio County. Dan, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more about you and what you're doing over there in Wheeling.
Positively West Virginia. Positively West Virginia.
Positively West Virginia is powered by Breezeline high-speed fiber internet and sponsored by Highmark West Virginia, Freedom Kia of Morgantown, and Humble Influence. With the help of these sponsors, we're able to share the positive business stories of West Virginians, including the one from today's episode.
Dan, so let's just start right at the top. For our listeners who may not know, give us an overview. What is Waterfront Hall and what do you do?
Waterfront Hall is a 15,000 square foot brick building built in 1877, and that's really what first attracted me to it. In 2018, when I bought it, I wasn't really sure what it was going to be, but what it has become now is a food hall on the first floor, a micro food hall, if you will, two kitchen tenants there, Avenue Eats and Wood-Fired Pizza, my bar, and then a live music venue that has produced over, I think, 150 shows at this point, comedy and music.
Wow, that's amazing.
On the second floor, there's an Airbnb. My wife, Paige, runs that. And so we commonly have guests who are there for a show, but primarily for weddings upstairs. So we have a third floor banquet hall. And then on the second floor, I'll back up for a moment, we also have a spa. So we have a great spa in there. It's called B Spa. Their first location was in Weirton, West Virginia. Yeah. They wanted to move to Wheeling because they heard all the good news, and I was connected to them through like another friend, and so we essentially have three tenants in the building: B Spa, Wood-Fired Pizza, and Avenue Eats, and then we run everything else.
That's great.
So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Waterfront Hall. Now, where is it located? Is it on the river? Or?
It's right on the waterfront.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's 1230 Water Street's the address, and it's the only, I think it's one of two river-facing businesses in downtown Wheeling.
Really?
So its front doors walk right out into a 3-acre park called Heritage Port. So right outside our door, there's often river cruise lines. There's 12 festivals every year. There's just a lot happening down on the waterfront there at Heritage Port as well. That helps us out.
I love it. And there's a lot going on in Wheeling area right now. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that as someone who's interested in business development and so forth. But let's really talk about the why. Like, what spurred you on to make an investment in Wheeling and really as an entrepreneur, dive into this?
I had always been fascinated with Wheeling. I can remember, I actually was born in Wheeling, but at Wheeling Hospital, but I grew up just across the river, and I can remember field trips when I was a kid from my school district, which was called Harrison Hills City School District. We would come to the good zoo at Oglebay. We would visit Wheeling for various reasons, mostly because there's so much heritage and culture there, but I can remember, having my forehead pressed against the bus window glass, and seeing these beautiful buildings in North Wheeling, these row houses that look nothing like what I was used to in my rural town of Piedmont, Ohio. So I was enchanted with it when I was a kid. The Thunderbirds, which later became the Nailers hockey team, was there, and I went to games. And then in my teens, early 20s, there was a robust social scene down there. And so I would come down out of the hills, about 35, 50 minutes away, somewhere in that range. And I just loved the city and loved the landscape and the way the river cut through there. So I knew what was happening, I guess, is my long-winded way of saying it. I knew what was going on down there. And so I actually lost a political campaign in 2018, and then threw all of my energy into a building that I saw come for sale, and it was just I felt in the geographic and cultural center of the Ohio Valley. Right on the port where all of those festivals take place. West Banco Arena's less than 100 yards away. So you had the Nailers, you had larger concerts and other events taking place. So I was enchanted with Wheeling at first, saw this amazing location, this amazing building, and again, didn't know what the plan was, all speculative, but just leapt at it because I had a feeling in my gut about it. And I've learned a lot about Wheeling since, but yeah, ultimately that's kind of the origin story.
Yeah, that's very cool. So give us a little bit of background on Dan Milleson. You mentioned you were born at Wheeling Hospital, grew up across the river in Ohio. What brought you back into like this West Virginia area? Like, and what's your background, education, and so forth? Yeah.
I went to I mentioned Harrison Hills. We were in a bit of a difficult spot back in the early 2000s. I mean, public school funding was not very strong, and I can remember going to school in a trailer outside of a partially condemned school building. Like the public schools were not doing all that well financially, and then the schools consolidated. When I was in 5th grade, 3 schools got together and kind of consolidated. It was a terrific experience for me. I met all these new people and kind of integrated with everybody. So I graduated from Harrison Central in 2006, and from kind of the same buildings that we had, had when I was younger. And I went to OU. I got a business degree from OU, and then I came back and I joined forces with my father at the insurance agency. Yeah. And he and my grandfather and my great grandfather were all in that business.
Where was it located?
Freeport, Ohio.
Yeah.
And so I jumped back in, and frankly, I didn't love it. I didn't fall right in love with it when I came back. But I wanted to do well. I wanted to make my dad proud. And so one of the smartest things that I did was I ended up convincing Dad to hire my best friend. And then Adam Perzanowski and I took over the agency and ran it for 14 years together. I was just 24 years old when I became a principal agent. I was the youngest principal agent in the country, I believe, for Nationwide Insurance. And so I was out of my depth, but that's where you grow.
That's right.
And so I had a tremendous experience, just being exposed to all of these 20 and 30-year professionals, and it kind of allowed me to, sponge up a lot of information in a really short period of time. As I'm doing this, the foreshadowing of the schools, I'll come back to that. Our local school district put a school levy on to build a new building that was going to bring all of the schools into one place. It's going to take our trailers and our school buildings that were less than stellar, and we were going to build a $60 million pre-K through 12 school for my alma mater. Still being in the community, I was, I wanted to be involved in that. So a group of my friends and I, we started a political action committee, and we canvassed the whole county. And our rural school district is 409 square miles. So we were, going to every small town, trying to, really raise people's real estate taxes in order to give the gift to generations of young people, right? So it had failed 30 to 70 the last time they tried to put it on the ballot. On November 3rd, 2015, we passed it by 307 votes, 53-47, and built our 100-year school.
Wow.
I still have chills when I think about it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But that was a transformational moment in my life, and I don't know that I'm going to have one quite like that again, because effectively what happened was that we went to a tax adverse kind of constituency, and went to large organizations in the county, like the Farm Bureau and the fire districts, and as 25, 6, and 7-year-old kids convinced the community that this was the right thing to do. And so I became delusional about what I could accomplish, and I went and ran for office thinking that was going to be the same thing. But when really, for me, it was a lot easier to advocate for an issue that I knew was right than myself. You know, that's what I came to find out.
That's a takeaway, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, I'm more issues based. I don't want to get up there and just brag, you know, or try to say why I'm the best choice for this or that. I'd much rather have the issue to focus on. So this is all happening while I'm working at the insurance office. I'm coaching basketball at the high school. I'm involved in the Chamber of Commerce. And, you know, I always had something else that I was doing alongside my insurance career. And Waterfront Hall is really no exception. I mean, that was the same thing for me. But lost the election, saw that aforementioned big, beautiful building in Wheeling, and threw all of my energy into that. And what you see there now is basically the manifestation of 5 years of work. So
Yeah, it's an incredible story. This is Positively West Virginia. We'll be right back.
Your prescriptions are designed to keep you healthy, active, full of life. At Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, we're making vital medicine more affordable. Because when your prescriptions don't cost an arm and a leg, you can use those limbs for something more meaningful. Because life. Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, West Virginia.
Folks, we're visiting with Dan Milleson. He's the owner-operator of Waterfront Hall in Wheeling, West Virginia. Dan, this has been a compelling story so far. So tell us a little bit about this Waterfront Hall building. That you said it was 15,000 or so square feet right there on the waterfront in Wheeling, downtown. What was the building like when you first laid eyes on it?
it was mostly kitchen and bath supply storage. It had been Berry Supply, which their family business went through basically 3 iterations. The building was built as a cordage business, a rope making business. In 1824, the eldest Berry floated down on a flatboat down the Ohio River, got off of the boat, and started a rope walk. He knew how to make rope, so he created a rope walk and was doing this outdoors. There's so many boats on the river at that time that his rope gets hot, people start purchasing it. And he builds a building on this location that we're in now. Well, in 1870, and I'm not sure what year he built that version of the building, but in 1871, that building burns down. And there's a Wheeling Intelligencer article from February 12th, 1871, that says the building was it created a 5-alarm fire. It was probably an arson, and it collapsed into a pen of pigs on the south side, and actually killed 2 people in a whole pen of pigs.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a huge deal back then. But so he relocates his business into a rented space, comes back and builds the building that we're in today in 1877. And he has a very successful run until like him and his sons. He has a great run until 1910 or so, and then it becomes a mill supply store and rubber goods. The steel mills are popping up in Pittsburgh, and so he's iterated again, the family has, and then that lasted until around the 1950s when the American dream became possible for more people during the post-World War II period, and they changed to kitchen and bath supply. And they ran that from the 1950s to 2018 when they eventually closed. They were Wheeling's oldest business.
Really?
194 years. Berry Supply
goodness.
had been in operation. So kind of a crazy story. But the lesson I took from that was you have to stay agile. And if you really want to have something that's generational, that lasts, you have to be able to move with the times, and you see in the Berry family's history they did that. So it's inspiring for me coming from a place where my family had a small business, and so it has a ton of history is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And
It sounds incredible, actually.
One of the architectural features of the building that's cool if you come visit is that I took the 25-foot long floor joists out of the basement where we needed to change the height of the floor. We took them out in one piece, sent them to a mill, had 2 of them dovetailed together, and sanded and cleaned off. They called me and said that they were Western red cedar. Well, Western red cedar only comes from the Pacific Northwest, you know, and that means that those joists probably came by train sometime in the 1870s from the Pacific Northwest and would have been put in the building and purchased by this family because Western red cedar doesn't rot. And the flooding that took place from the Ohio River, it made, if you're going to make an investment like that, you definitely want to have something that's rot resistant, right?
That's probably way before pressure treating.
Right. So these huge beams are now the bar top.
Oh, that's cool.
So
very cool.
There's a 22-foot span and a 21-foot span on the other side of the first floor, and that's what everybody eats and drinks on top of, which is...
Do they know it?
Many don't.
That's pretty amazing.
I should put a plaque on there or something, but many don't. But that is just one way that I tried to recycle the kind of the amazing materials that were inside of the building.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Dan, with regard to your business right now in Wheeling, I get the sense that there's a great energy happening in Wheeling. What's the thing you're most excited about right now for your business and the Wheeling area? Maybe it's a two-part question.
I'm excited about the feeling of like energy that exists in the community. In Wheeling, there's a lot of makers, there's a lot of artists, and I see people kind of gradually coming around to changing their buying choices and creating more of a circular economy within Wheeling. All I mean when I say that is just kind of waking up to the idea that, when you make the choice to buy something off of Amazon Prime instead of off of that maker in town, that's a choice that has an impact on the place that you live. And I think that there's been kind of and I hesitate to use the word like education, but there's been a market consciousness, I think, that started to take place in that town. And if that reaches any kind of critical mass, that is a terrific thing for a lot of small business owners in the community. I see that with Avenue Eats. I see that with Wood Fired Pizza. I think people would rather come there, spend their money there, than, and this is no offense to anybody that works at a franchise, but a franchise. Just because people are more conscious of where their money's going and how that gets reinvested. So our responsibility as business owners in Wheeling, as far as I can see it, is to reinvest that money, to pay our staff well, to spend our money on our goods, our supplies in the community as much as possible. And so that kind of understanding that we're all in it together is probably the most exciting thing for me.
Yeah, I love it. This is Positively West Virginia. We'll be right back. Stay connected with an unbeatable deal from Breezeline. Voted best in Mountaineer Country for their reliable, high-speed fiber internet for a low cost, Breezeline is the best gig in town. Here at Interaction Media, we rely on high-speed internet every single day to ensure we can deliver the best content possible for our clients and when we publish Positively West Virginia each week. That's why we use Breezeline. It's affordable, fast, and they're great people as well. Learn more about Breezeline's internet, TV, and mobile options at breezeline.com. In a world obsessed with leadership, what if the real key to success is followership? We hear it all the time. Be a leader, take charge. But what if the most impactful people aren't the ones leading from the front? In Humble Influence, I explore how humility, collaboration, and shared purpose empower followers to create meaningful change in business, organizations, and relationships. Discover the strength of true followership with Humble Influence. Folks, we're back. We're visiting once again with Dan Milleson. He's the owner-operator of Waterfront Hall in beautiful downtown Wheeling, West Virginia. So, Dan, from Waterfront Hall, where's your customer base? Is it right there in the Ohio Valley? Is it mainly from Wheeling? Are you generating people and interest from outside of the area? Talk about that, please.
Yeah, I think you can draw a 25-mile circle around the building, and that's what supports it on a regular basis. But it also sits on this major thoroughfare, which is I-70 and I-470. They kind of split around downtown Wheeling, but there's an enormous amount of traffic on that road, and we're less than an hour from parts of Pittsburgh. So if if that 25-mile diameter really takes care of us on a regular basis, what kind of takes us over the edge is the traffic from that major interstate artery that goes all the way from New York to Denver, Colorado. But and then for us, probably the most consequential thing that has supported our business are all of the great events at the Capitol Theater and West Banco Arena. Mm-hmm. I think there's 41 home hockey games. Those are always great for us. It's so important to have the Nailers in town. And then the Capitol has actually expanded their events by threefold. So every night that they have a show, Robert Plant was in town 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah. And he actually opened his American tour in Wheeling and spent 3 days there rehearsing. He was at the local grocery store. He was at the record store.
One of the legends of rock and roll.
It's as big as it gets, Golden God,
Exactly.
So for us, to know that Wheeling and its institutions are capturing that kind of talent, this is a major reason for our continued kind of success over the past 28 months, is just that feeling that something cool is going to happen every couple of weeks or more frequently than that.
Yeah. And you mentioned Capitol Music Hall, and it is truly one of the great treasures of West Virginia. They recently, it's been a couple of years now, but did a renovation on that building, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that deserve credit for saving that building, and I know Frank O'Brien is in that conversation. He's the Wheeling CVB director, but I've got to be careful there because I'm going to leave somebody out. But they did burn their mortgage paperwork, I think 3 years ago or so. So the debt is completely gone, and that they're operating from a position of strength there now, and that's a testament to all the people that saved that building.
That's wonderful. You've been an entrepreneur for many years now, Dan. What's something you think that you've seen in your years of business that's something that sticks out at you as one of the most interesting things you've seen in business?
Well, I guess what I've gleaned is that if you treat your staff, your team, your people, your squad in the way that you want to be treated, and you create an environment where there's a pathway to growth, and if you really are able to step out of your ego and into the seat of the observer who's observing the ego, I think that that kind of personal work is the basis, the pretext for all of the important business decisions that you can make. So to take that a step further, I think that in order to properly run an organization and create something compelling that people want to surround themselves with, the really key thing is the work that you've done internally. So I'm not saying that I've got this mastered or figured this out, but I am saying that there's a really important thing that you need to accomplish in order to create good energy in a business, and that is to when I'm in a conversation and something negative has happened, which happens a lot, my ability to notice the emotion coming up in that situation, to observe it, to name it, and then to step away from it, that prevents me from making so many mistakes. Yeah. So just the consciousness around, knowing that you're going to encounter problems and encounter things that upset you. Somebody said something, or somebody hasn't performed a task that they knew they needed to accomplish in order for something to go right. I think just remembering being able to observe the emotional reaction, coming down from that, and then doing the thing that's most human with that person next, and approaching them in a human way after a mistake happens. That is those little micro situations, they compound, and then the people that you're working with, they know that you're going to handle things in a thoughtful way, and it's not like that everywhere. Oftentimes people, business owners are stressed, they're coming down on people because of their own weight that
Pressure,
they feel.
yeah.
Of course, yeah. And I think that, that has been like a fundamental thing in the way that I've approached Waterfront Hall, and
That's great.
and at my best, I guess, approached other areas of my professional life. But I still fail at this,
Yeah,
But,
of course. Well, we're humans, and I love the fact that you're talking about this. I often say that the time between stimulus and response is golden,
Yeah.
because you're right. You can make you could really do a lot of damage in a few seconds by instantly reacting to something.
I've done it.
Yeah. I know, because therefore, I have walked in those shoes, as they say. So it's powerful what you're saying, and I appreciate your heart on that. When you think about wheeling, you think about your business, Waterfront Hall. What do you think there is there a misconception of the wheeling area, maybe not just in Ohio County, but in West Virginia? Like, we have an audience here of West Virginia. What would you like to maybe dispel a myth about wheeling, or maybe even set the record straight?
Well, I've just had a tremendous experience in wheeling, and a very encouraging experience. And I don't have a lot of criticism, and I don't know what the I guess I'm naive enough and just separated enough from Ohio County, like throughout the early years of my life.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know what these old thoughts and biases actually look like.
Yeah.
But what I can say is that I believe it is a 21st century Victorian city in a beautiful landscape, with a state landmark that was just underwent a $17 million repair in the beautiful suspension bridge.
Yeah.
That thing's incredible. And that, ultimately what I really love about the area is just thinking about the history of the river itself. I mean, here's something that I could dispel.
Yeah.
We are very easily just dismiss the Ohio River as a polluted kind of waterway that has coal barges on it, and takes various commodities up and down the river, and it's forgettable. That thing's 150,000 years old, and on its current path for that long. Before the glacier kind of changed the path, it actually, I think, comes out of the Tees Valley River, which is one of the oldest in the country. Anyway, the Ohio is like 1.5 million years old. So like that thing flowing past you, like, they say you never step in the same river twice. That thing's been constantly moving for a long time.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and I think that we fail to recognize that that thing is ancient. And the pyramids were built 5,000 years ago, something like that. This thing's 150, so.
Well, it's interesting. It's a romantic view of the river, and I'm a fisherman. You don't know this because we're just meeting for the first time. And I've spent many, many days fishing on the Ohio River, and I can tell you it does go through cycles, but man, it's a great fishery for bass. I mainly fish for largemouth and smallmouth, Kentucky spotted bass, but it is a great fishery, and sometimes you forget like all the history, like you said. And what's cool, you're in Morgantown today, and the Monongahela starts just a few miles south of here in Marion County, and it forms the confluence with the Allegheny and forms the Ohio right there in Pittsburgh. So, our drinking water is your drinking water ultimately. It's kind of crazy when you think about how we're all connected on this stuff. But yeah, the river. I'm a river rat. So
cool.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So all right, so as you're thinking about entrepreneurship, business ownership, small business. I mean, this is our core here at Positively West Virginia, and sharing the great stories and thought leaders like yourself. What do you think? What do you think the future holds for West Virginia businesses? I mean, as you're one now. You're just like you're doing this, and you got your fingers on the pulse because you're doing it, and I'm sure you talk and network with other business owners in the Wheeling area. What's your thought on that?
Yeah,
where are we going with all this?
I know my staff, and I know the most consequential thing that could happen to them is healthcare.
Yeah.
And I could. I'm not going to make any political statements about what the legislature is voting on or anything like that. But I am responsive to the needs of my staff.
Yeah.
And we're not in a place where we're grossing the kind of profiting the kind of money, cash flowing in the way where we can provide health care to all 15 people that work there. We just couldn't do it. But, some solution around the service economy, or around the entire economy as it relates to health care would be just a transformational thing. And I see the kind of money that gets spent, not necessarily in West Virginia itself, but across, the federal government. And I really look at healthcare, and I think that this is the thing that would impact the 8 kids that are waterfront babies. Like we have 15 staff, and then of that staff they have 8 children.
Yeah.
I know that's the most consequential thing that we could work on and improve, and I know that would improve West Virginians' lives and the lives of my staff, and would take a great concern off of their plate, and would probably lead to a clear vision of what they wanted to accomplish themselves, because that stress, that worry, that concern, which clouds our judgment a lot of the time, which we were referring to earlier, if that issue were taken off the table, I just think you'd have a lot more inspired, creative, happy people in West Virginia.
Yeah. Interesting take, and I appreciate you sharing that. That's very cool. You're a business leader. You've worked in business for a long time. You've worked with a lot of business leaders like yourself. What would you say, Dan, is the most important, if you will, attribute of a successful business leader today? What do you think? Like, that's the thing right there.
The ability to stay very light on your feet, remain agile, see these technological tools in a clear-eyed way. I've dabbled with. Artificial intelligence is the elephant in the room, right? At least it has been in this conversation so far. But I look at that and I have enormous trepidation, and at the same time can finish a job description in 25 seconds now.
Yeah.
So I recognize wholeheartedly that there's a tremendous value that's been created just through the very easy prompts that you can do with that system. And then there's people like some of your crew here who I'm sure are very deft with it already and have explored it to a greater extent than what I have. But I just I think that you can't turn a blind eye to it. I think you have to educate yourself on what's available, and I think that you have to use it in a way that helps the people that work inside of your business do the best job that they possibly can. So I think of SOPs. I think of like I think of the accounting functions as like we can't afford to have a CFO, but and I've never been the greatest math student. I'm kind of on the other side of my brain most of the time, the writing and that kind of thing. But no, I think it's the agility around technological tools, and I think it's a willingness to stick your nose in there and learn something that, even if you might have trepidation about it, just forcing yourself into those places to make sure that your blind spots are as few and far between as possible.
Yeah, I appreciate that insight for sure on leadership. And Dan, like I said, we're just getting to know each other. You don't know that I'm a fisherman, but you probably didn't know that I was a musician either.
No. I have a place you can play. Yeah.
But that's how I paid my way through college. Was playing the drums in rock bands and everything. I always had short hair though. I never had the long hair. But it's kind of interesting. You mentioned AI. This spring I started really getting back into music in a recording studio and traditional. And that spurred me on to learning some AI tools. And so I've been writing a lot of music. And don't judge me for this because I know you have a music venue, and I don't think live music's going anywhere anytime soon. But I have about 26 songs right now on Spotify that I've written and produced. Primarily, I write the lyrics and then produce it through a a platform called Suno AI. And it is amazing to me because, and this is, we're having a conversation, so don't judge me as a person because I'm doing this, but I'm actually able to write and record songs that are like studio quality. And I put them out there, and people are like, wow, this is, like, I catch my wife singing one of the songs I wrote. I'm like, that's my song. She's like, what? Yeah, I've been listening to this. It's on a playlist on Spotify. And it's kind of wild, you know. So the point I'm trying to make with that is, you know, using technology to explore our creativeness as humans. You mentioned the words humans a little bit ago, and I believe that's going to be the differentiator. How can we, as humans, humanize technology so that the technology is not the thing that's running it. It's the humans that are using the AI and the technology tools that are out there and the ones that are to come to better serve humanity. And how do we do that in a way that it's not harmful and destructive?
Yeah. I have a friend, John, who always has this phrase when this discussion topic comes up. He says, well, who is it for?
Yeah.
And that's a good question in terms of who owns the technology.
Yeah.
It's a good question in terms of how we use the technology.
Exactly.
And I think that, you know, this is an enormous, this is an outcome of enormous proportions, and we should be really thoughtful around what we do next.
Yeah. What's interesting, just who's it for? You know, I'll just answer that question just on my little example here. I've created some songs that I actually like listening to.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool. I'm like, wow, yeah. I mean, I put this together. Yeah, it's not a human voice singing. You can't tell, you know. But I enjoy it, so I'm getting satisfaction.
Yeah,
so
sure.
In that case, it's for myself, and maybe someday my grandbabies will listen to these songs and say, Papa Jim was a good singer.
Yeah.
So, all right, so let's get back to the thing. This has been a great conversation, Dan, and I really appreciate your spirit, your soul, and what you're trying to do out in the world. What's one piece of advice you'd give to somebody as maybe listening to this, getting inspired by your story and saying, you know what, I've always wanted to do this. Dan's inspired me. I'm going to go do it. What would you say, you know, to somebody who's an aspiring entrepreneur out there here in West Virginia?
There's going to come a time when the chips have to go on the table. For me, this was going to Main Street Bank and them agreeing to give me a loan for this development project. Probably, you know, there probably were some voices that thought they shouldn't give me the loan, but they did. And the first draw that I made on that loan was, for me, that chips on the table moment, because
it's about to get real.
And I'm sure you know the feeling. And what helped me, this is the piece of advice, I guess, what helped me is I found this exercise called fear setting. And it told me to take out a piece of paper, write the worst possible outcome because of the choice that I'm about to make, and then take it, set it over here, and then make it worse. Take it, set it over here again, and then make that version even worse. And then keep that fear setting exercise, that terrible outcome, on you at all times. Mm-hmm. And the reason you want to keep it on you and come back to it repeatedly is because, like, you've already determined what the worst possible outcome is. And having that and being able to confront whether or not you could live with that set of circumstances is like a way to kind of calcify the fear that moves through you as you're doing a project like what I was doing. So I came back to it over the course of the project 5 or 6 different times, and it was 5 or 6 different occurrences where I thought, I'm going to lose this. I'm going to have a financial calamity. Wow. And I, even saying that now, like, I'm over dramatizing it, and I would come back to that fear setting exercise and go, don't be so dramatic, man. Even when this happens, you're still going to be able to work for someone else. You're still going to be able to climb out of this hole. Even if your wages are garnished for 25 years, and you're not able to find somebody who wants someone in debt.
That was deep, huh?
I had it right there. That's awesome. That's my piece of advice is awesome. Confront the worst thing that you can see out of the experience. Live with it, get to know it, and then you'll be able to make clearer decisions because you've already confronted it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Appreciate that. Dan, we've covered a lot in this interview. It's gone by very quickly. We've covered everything from, how you grew up to where you're at today, and lots of wisdom along the way. One of the questions before we wrap up, do you ever envision yourself back as a kid driving in a school bus coming into Wheeling with your head pressed against that window and looking at your building and say, man, I wonder what's in there?
I was telling my wife actually a couple of days ago that the 16-year-old version of me, like seeing this Waterfront Hall thing, like, oh man, like that version of me would have loved this, and that tells me that I'm, on a proper path, that I'm still, doing something with my life that, that kid that had a lot of different dreams, would still be proud of, and
That's
I think
amazing. Yeah.
I think that's a great barometer for all of us is, I'm not going to quote any Carl Jung or anything like that, but there's an unlived life that you need to be mindful of, and if you have a series of outcomes take place and there's some version of yourself that you've kind of lost track of, that manifests itself in you, physically. And I feel like I'm mindful of that. I'm trying to, stay on a path that, I'm trying to live the way that I guess my heart and soul is kind of telling me to live. Yeah. And ultimately, that could change at any moment. And I, want to take an approach that's full of humility here, but that's what I'm truly trying to do.
Yeah.
So,
well, we're created for a purpose. Oftentimes we don't know what the purpose is until we step into it, and it just feels that way. Like you're saying, the 16-year-old version of you would be very proud of you. And I'm sure that lots of others in your life are that way. How can our listeners learn more about Dan Milleson and check out Waterfront Hall? What's the best way for them to do that?
Waterfronthall.com is the best place to kind of find everything that we're doing. All the live shows, if you want to stay in our building, all that information is there. You can book parties. And then I write a little newsletter. It's called the Waterfront Times.
Awesome.
And it's a little weekly that shows up on Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. And I've been working on some other projects that have kept me away from it the last few weeks, but I'm eager to jump back in and write. I write about everything. I write about the topics that you and I are talking about today.
That's cool. Yep.
And it's just a fun thing for me. I joke with my with my wife and friends sometimes. I say the two compliments that I like the best are, "Hey man, you're really good at backing up that trailer," just because that's a very manly thing that I know how to do.
Yeah, check your mirrors. Right?
Yeah, right. And then I read your newsletter.
That's good.
Those are my two favorite things.
That's very cool. No, well, you hit on a good point there because I feel like humans have something to say, good, bad, and different. We have something to say, and for us to be able to say something that we want to get out there in the world, into the universe, is very important. And so it's affirming when somebody says, "Hey, I read your newsletter.
Yeah.
Hey, I see your podcast."
I mean, that newsletter is the most intimate I get typically with people.
Yeah, it's your ideas, your thoughts, right?
Yeah.
That's very cool.
So it is nice to hear.
And especially as a fellow writer, I like to write as well. And it takes time, but it takes energy. And we want to make sure that, it's at least maybe it's helping somebody, at least one person.
Hope so, yeah.
So that's great. Dan, this has been great. Our guest once again is Dan Milleson. He is the owner and operator of Waterfront Hall in Wheeling, West Virginia. Dan, it's been an honor just to have you here in the studio today, to get to know you a little bit, to share part of your story here with our audience. I'm sure that everybody got a lot out of this. I think what you're doing is fantastic. I'm inspired by the great work that you're doing.
Thanks.
And I just want to encourage you to keep up the great work.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of Positively West Virginia. If you or someone you know would be a great guest on our show, drop us a line on our website at positivelyWV.com. And of course, we appreciate your reviews, sharing these great stories of people like Dan Milleson and his entrepreneurial journey with your people. Helps him, helps us, helps everybody. So that's very much appreciated. On behalf of our entire Positively West Virginia team, including our producer today, Mr. Sampson 2, behind the controls, as well as Jimmy Murray, his assistant today, I'm your host, Jim Matuga. Stay positive, West Virginia.
We'd like to thank our partners, Highmark West Virginia, Freedom Kia of Morgantown, Interaction Media, Humble Influence, and our studio sponsor, Breezeline, for helping to share these positive stories. If you'd like to become a sponsor of the Positively West Virginia podcast, visit positively.wv.com/sponsor.